know.
Yeah.
And when they're not digesting their food very well and it comes out and it's partially intact, they might try to eat it again. And there's nothing wrong with that. I would prevent it if I
Mm-hmm.
saw it happening, but it's not a devastating thing for them to do it. If you discover that a dog has done that,
Yeah.
I'd be much more worried about a dog eating some strange dog's poop or eating cat poop or whatever that they find out there in the world,
Mm-hmm.
than I would if, say, you have two dogs and one dog eats poop and the other one doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so, I mean, and when it comes to wild poops, like deer poops and rabbit poops, I let my dog eat that. Even horse poop.
Yeah.
Um, Interestingly, the dogs that I've seen eat horse poop will eat grass-fed horse poop,
Mm-hmm.
but not straw or hay-fed
Yeah,
grass
that's
or
interesting.
hay-fed horses
Mm-hmm.
um, poop. So, yeah, it's a huge range, and it can be something you want to prevent. It's probably almost always something you want to prevent. It's not the best thing, but
Right.
it's not horrible either. They just don't have the aversions that we do. And so let's face it, some of our aversions are irrational.
So, what about the grass eating?
Yeah, nobody really knows why dogs eat grass, but lots of dogs do eat grass. Even properly fed dogs eat grass. It's one of those things that you can see it in a dog that has, known pathology, and you can also see it in a dog that's healthy. Like you
Mm-hmm.
see, apparently researchers have seen wolves eating grass, um, and they don't necessarily vomit when they do that. They don't
Mm-hmm.
necessarily have worms. I mean, there's all kinds of myths that have arisen about that. Like, oh, the dog is not feeling well, he's trying to make himself vomit or whatever. I don't think you can come to any of those conclusions. I just don't think we know why dogs do it. They don't always
Right.
vomit. It sometimes comes through intact, sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah.
I don't think they can digest it because they don't have the equipment. It just doesn't break down.
Yeah. Okay.
But
So, one of the other questions that we have is on environmental toxins. Can you explain why maybe this is something that we don't have to focus so hard on? Like, I think people think, oh, I got to worry about this and this and this in the house. Why does proper feeding protect our dogs from toxins like that? Do we need to be extremely concerned um, about toxins in our environment when it comes to our dogs?
I don't think we need to be extremely concerned, but
Mhm.
when I hear people, I've sort of gotten in the habit of picking up these red flags when people tell me about what they're feeding their dogs. And if one of the first things out of their mouth is, I've gotten rid of all of my toxic household cleaners,
Yeah.
I know that that's a low priority thing. There's nothing good about those things.
No.
You can find a natural alternative for all of those things that works just fine, but they are not causing your dog to itch. They're not causing stuff
Yeah.
to come out your dog's skin. Um, yeah, you can get rid of them, and you should get rid of them.
Yes.
But the more important thing is that the dog is properly fed. And one of the reasons I say that is because there's been some very interesting research done about that by a doctor named Colin Campbell, who feeds, unfortunately for the little rats in his laboratory, he feeds some of them properly, like rats
Mhm.
are supposed to eat, and he feeds other rats improperly. He feeds them junk, the human equivalent, or the equivalent of human junk,
Mhm.
McDonald's and whatnot, and exposes them to the same amount and level of exposure to a known carcinogen. And what he finds out in 100% of cases is that the rats that are properly fed do not get cancer.
That's
I mean,
amazing.
this needs to be shouted from the rooftops,
Mhm.
because that means that even smokers can do better. Even,
Yeah.
people that are working in these industries where they're in contact with known carcinogens can avoid disease potentially, if we extrapolate his findings,
Mhm.
and avoid cancer. So, I
Yeah.
mean, it's just hugely empowering to know that. Um,
That's
and it,
amazing.
yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
He talks about this in his book called Whole, WHOLE.
Okay.
And there's probably lots of other papers and books that he's written too where he talks about, but that's the one that I
Yeah.
heard about it in. It was very impressed with that.
There's some also some other new research that is coming out of the Voyager Wolf Project in Minnesota with the University of Minnesota, and they've done many peer review articles on the ecology of wolves. And one of the fascinating things, I think it's really cool that this research is now coming out that validates your 20 plus years of observation
Right.
in dogs and their health. But one of the coolest things that I thought was that out of 2+ months of the year, 80% of these wolves' diet is a single fruit, blueberries.
Blueberries. I know. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
And I mean, the fact of the matter is wolves have been known to go 2 months without eating anything at all, even longer
Mm-hmm.
than that.
Yeah.
They track wolves and they know precisely what they eat. And now they have cameras set up everywhere and they see what they do and everything. They see all their behaviors and their injuries and how they recover from their injuries and whatnot. Um, but yeah, it is really fascinating. And the rest of the time, these wolves are eating very lean, very um, they're not eating every day. They're not eating by the clock, you
Right.
know.
Yeah, I think
So,
that's the one that also had observed the feeding every 3 to 7 days
right,
on
right.
average. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's amazing.
Right.